Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on our Fundamentals of Digital Marketing webinar. I'm Nicola Willier-Fenton with the Continuing and Distance Education Department. We're going to go through a pretty quick agenda today, and I'm going to try to keep this to a half hour, because we certainly know that many of you have other things to get back to. But hopefully you're interested in some of these conversations that are happening kind of behind the scenes and topics that are happening in our digital marketing fundamentals course. As I mentioned, my name is Nicole Willier-Fenton. I have the good fortune of working in our Continuing and Distance Education Department, where our digital marketing fundamentals course is housed. And today we're going to talk to Christopher Hill, our support instructor in our digital marketing fundamentals course. You probably saw Chris pop up on his webcam a few minutes ago. He'll be back with us here in just a minute. We're going to really learn from Chris what are the kinds of things that are happening in the fundamentals of digital marketing course. What are the types of topics that students are asking about, they're learning about, they're confused about, they need more support about, they're excited about, and so it'll give you a good glimpse, we hope, as to what the digital marketing course here at UVM is like. We'll go through some of those logistics as well, just the format and all those logistic questions that'll help you to understand how this course is run. And we're going to talk a lot about the Capstone Project, one of the big outcomes of our digital marketing fundamentals course. And then there's another wonderful opportunity for our digital marketing folks to take, it's an added value. It's a no charge kind of bonus module, additional course option that you can choose that is career coaching. And this is just specific to our folks who take our digital marketing fundamentals course. And this is an option for you to add that on at no charge. Highly recommend it. Even if you're just brushing up on your resume, you want to brush up on some interview skills, this is the opportunity to do that, and we'll walk through some of those pieces, and we'll hear from our career coach, Sue Shlom, on what that looks like for the digital marketing course. Okay, so let's dive in. Just before I introduce Chris a little bit more, I want to share that you had seen I put in a welcome in our chat box. That's your area to ask any questions. So please do. I'll keep an eye as best of my ability on that chat box today to see your questions. It can be course logistic questions. It can be specific questions for course content with Chris. You name it, we'll try our best to answer that. And if there's something we can't answer today, Kelly, who's on our team here, is always wonderful about putting up our email address, website, and various different things, so if you want to follow up with more information. So please do that today. Okay, so we have the pleasure of having Christopher Hill joining us from Georgia. And Chris has been the PPC team lead at a digital agency in Georgia called He is our support instructor on our digital marketing course. So really he touches almost all aspects of the different sessions and the different topics. So I think he somewhat is a marketing jack of all trades, potentially. And so as we've seen here in his bio, he consults with clients on all matters of digital marketing, and a proud father and husband, an avid sports fan, and has a background in television production. So it looks like you still dip your hand into that whenever possible, and a published writer. And sounds like there's a fourth one on the way. Thank you so much for being with us today, Chris.
Sure, thank you for having me.
We're really looking forward to hearing from you today. So I just wanted to also just point out what good company Chris is in as well, and the opportunity that you have as a potential student in our digital marketing course to learn from these experts. And so what I'm seeing here are folks that are experts in SEO, in Google Analytics, and email marketing and social marketing. And then our lead instructor, Eric Harbison, kind of orchestrates all of it with the support of Chris as well. So you really are able to tap into subject matter experts in digital marketing from all across the country that we have pulled together for this course. Chris, maybe let's ask you a quick question before we get into some of the course objectives.
Sure.
What is that like to have all of these subject matter experts in this course? What is that experience like for students?
Well, it's kind of like just walking into a store, and you're kind of trying to figure out exactly what it is that you want, but you need a little bit of guidance from the people. Now, unlike an actual store where they'll come to you and you may or may not want their help. At this point, you're basically asking, for the help. And so, for instance, we just went over a social media module, and the Jed's very good about it. Talking back and forth with the students during the actual live session is one of the things that I think is truly helpful, because every question that is asked is answered, and if it's not answered, during the actual session, and sometimes we, it's supposed to be an hour, but sometimes we go a little bit over just to keep answering questions. If it's not answered at that point, then all of the instructors like to, answer the questions offline as well, and give you a very robust look into the singular channel that we're discussing that week, whether it be social media, display marketing, email marketing, and what have you. So it really is kind of like just having, I said kind of a store thing, but I guess having your own personal trainer would probably be the better way to kind of describe it. Having your own personal trainer for each one of these specific topics.
What a great analogy. Thank you so much. And hopefully that resonates with folks, that you have the potential to have your own personal trainer in SEO and email marketing and Google Analytics and really data-driven decision making. So here's some of the objectives and the intended outcomes of this course. And I think this is really important for folks to take a minute to look at, because these are very actionable pieces that you can then bring back immediately to your place of work, to your company, whatever it is that you represent, whether it's your own business or you're on a team. So many of these things that you can, it's almost like you're in these sessions on a week 2, and week 3 you're implementing some of the things that you have learned. So it's very timely, very relevant, very on topic, and very actionable for you to bring back some of this learning into your own work. And we'll talk about that Capstone Project in a few minutes as well. So oftentimes people, maybe this is your first online course that you're considering, or you've taken a couple. They probably run fairly similar if you've taken an online course before, but here's the structure of our digital marketing online course. It runs Wednesday through Tuesday, and so essentially the module opens up on Wednesday, and there would be assignments. You'll see what the assignments are, what the readings are, what the videos, what the coursework is for that week. And then throughout the week you will have different days that have assignments due, and then there's a live session which is also recorded as well. Chris, will you walk us through, and I know I hate to say the typical week, but because it can vary a little bit, but what does a week look like for a student in our digital marketing course?
Sure thing. So when the module opens, all of the content, so that could be videos, that could be some sort of a advanced reading, all of that stuff becomes available. And so the student has time before the Wednesday live session to go ahead and start dipping their feet into the course material. So for this week's social media, we were able to open that up. The student can go in, watch the videos that Jed had. Also, look at any of the extra reading that was there. Whether it whether it be about things with influencers, or things with how to advertise on social media, or what each particular platform is sort of best used. So everybody has a chance to look at that. And then during the live session on Wednesday nights, that's a place for all of us to convene and just kind of have Jed go over. It's not so much the general topics, because each one of these is very specific, but just going over some of the high points, but also some of the I guess more unique facets of a particular thing. Like we spent a good bit of time on influence this past Wednesday, because influencers was something that was brought up by a lot of students inside of the chat. And so the Wednesday sessions are very much like there's definitely an outline of how the instructor is going to go over it, but depending on the students involvements, their questions, and where a lot of their where they sort of needed help in, and the instructor will kind of lean the discussion towards that a little bit more. And then from there, you have basically from Wednesday night on up until Sunday, you have time to take the quizzes. You have time to post on the discussion board, ask any questions that you have. Throughout the week, I will go to the discussion boards and see if there's any questions, and see if, there, questions that are, geared towards the students, geared towards the specific instructor, or just geared towards, subject matter in general or the capstones. And so that whole week up until Sunday, you have that time to do that. Sunday evening, the actual assignments are due, the first part of the assignments, and then on Tuesdays, we always like to have students, engage with their peers, and so Tuesday is when that engagement is due. Basically in the discussion board, you can reply on threads and further the conversation, and that's basically the last point that you'll have before the next Wednesday, comes and the new material will open up.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that overview. I think that hopefully that helps folks get a sense as to what your week would look like. And I really value that the discussions on Wednesday can somewhat be student-led. Obviously, the instructor has somewhat of a plan, but if there's a topic like social influencers that people really want to know about, there's an opportunity for them to dive deeper. We have a couple questions here, Chris, that I just want to jump to. Maya says, please address how the course would benefit those who seek a new career in digital marketing. And I'd love to touch on that. And Chris, I really would love your feedback as well. Maya, we've had several different webinars with our lead instructor, Eric Harbison, and some of our subject matter expert instructors as well. And what I've really gleaned from that is that it's really what you make of it. If you are looking to start a career in digital marketing, then this is an excellent opportunity for you to get a good portion of information about a variety of different channels and opportunities in digital marketing. So you're somewhat, I think he's always referred to it as kind of the T-shape effect, is that you will get a very wide knowledge base of all of the pieces of digital, and then you can then drill down into a specific area, kind of heading down in that T, a specific area that you might be interested in. Because as you're learning about all these different facets of digital marketing, you might say, oh my gosh, I love SEO. This is fascinating to me. I want to dive deeper. And so that really gives you the opportunity to get more specialized in a certain area. But from what I've gleaned and from the experience that I've had with the instructors, this is an absolute opportunity for somebody new into digital, and it's also an opportunity for somebody who has some area of expertise in one of the channels, but maybe wants to expand their knowledge in some of the others. Can you add to that as well, Chris, from your experience? Is this a good opportunity for somebody new in digital?
Definitely, because when you're coming in new, you don't necessarily have, so you do have preconceived notions, obviously, because before you get into digital marketing, I'm sure you would have some sort of idea of what that is. But when you come in new, you get a chance to kind of see exactly sort of what the industry that you may or may not be getting into, kind of holds for you. So like you said, it's a very good chance to figure out, like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm really into websites and SEO right now, but maybe social is more my niche, or I'm interested in figuring out how email can be incorporated into, the company I work for's overall digital marketing strategy. It really gives you, a very clear path of how you want to go. And companies love cross training. So if you're new, you basically, it's kind of like learning another language. You basically have the ability to kind of immerse yourself in all of this and start really applying. Especially with the capstone as the endpoint, you're really able to start really applying all of the things that you would be learning to not only what you do or what you will be doing in the future, but also you will, and I'm sure you'll touch on this later, but you'll be able to take whatever brand you choose for your capstone and essentially drive your understanding of all of these channels towards helping that brand succeed in a way, whether that's your own brand with your new career or if it's something that you're interested in moving into. So yeah, no, it's definitely a great opportunity for new people and people who have been doing this for a while as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you. I really appreciate that perspective. A few more questions here, and then we'll get back a little bit to some of the information in the presentation. These two questions are about the Wednesday live sessions. Um, and so Elena says, are there opportunities to hold discussions during the live Wednesday sessions, or is it more lecture style? And then also, it looks like Rebecca's asking, how long is the weekly Wednesday discussion? And I believe that it's approximately an hour. And I think Chris said sometimes it goes a little bit longer. But talk to us too about how students do interact with each other during the sessions and with the instructor during those live sessions.
Absolutely. So Lana, so there is a chat feature inside of the live session platform, similar to this one, and similar to what you're doing now. A student can ask a question, and then that question is picked up by the instructor, or myself and Eric are also inside of the actual live sessions as well. So you basically three instructors, one who's basically sort of leading the entire discussion about that particular topic, and then two others that are basically well versed in the other things. So if a question comes up and it's something that similar to this one, it's a question that would sort of benefit the entire class to hear and discuss, then yes, we'll have that. It's not necessarily a cut and dry, we're only going to talk about these points and move forward and not talk about these other things online. It's very much students have the ability to definitely hold discussions, and I've seen students break out in the chat, and have discussions with one another, and have this prolonged engagement that is really great to see, sharing their experiences and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's definitely not going to be just stop, listen, and don't say anything and hold your questions till the end. It's very much a back and forth too, when those times do come up.
Very dynamic from what I've gleaned from the experience as well. Great, thank you for that, and thank you for those great questions as well. One more question here, and then we'll jump back into some of the more logistics. Brian asks, is this a boot camp style of course that moves very fast? And I'd love your perspective on this, Chris. My first initial reaction to that is somewhere in between. And so the content and the information is presented from a Wednesday, and the assignments are due to Sunday to Tuesday. And so that in itself can feel fast, especially if you are working full time or have family and other obligations, as many of us do. But at the same time, I think that our style gives folks an opportunity to take a breath and reflect on some of the information that they're learning. So I've certainly taken boot camp style courses that are 4 weeks. Some of our digital marketing short courses are more boot camp styles. Those are 4 weeks. Because this is longer, I think it gives you a little bit more. It's still intense, but it gives you opportunity to reflect and take a deep breath, maybe a little bit more than the intensive boot camp style. Any other feedback on that, Chris, or thoughts?
Yes, and it kind of touches on Jamie's question too. Brian, there's going to be a lot of material, and so in that sense, it could feel like you're kind of going through a boot camp. And yes, all the material basically opens up, every preceding week that occurs. But I think the difference with this is that you're not just doing one thing and forgetting about it. Everything is leading up to the capstone. So all of the things we do in the discussion board, all of the assignments and whatnot, and all of the learning it's basically, you can think of this as, yes, you're going to touch on SEO for a week, you're going to touch on display marketing for a week, you're going to touch on email for a week, but at the end of the day, the entire course is for digital marketing and how to sort of run a digital marketing campaign for a singular brand or multiple brands, but your capstone's for a singular brand. And so you're building up to it. So it's more like 8 weeks of a continued sustained learning and expanding on that learning each and every week. You'll get some technical instruction, like specifically in like the things like the SEO, module. You get specific instruction on, how to do certain things and how to sort of evaluate and identify certain things. And, that information will build on itself as the course goes on.
Great. Thank you. That was really great insight. I really appreciate that. And thank you for that question, Brian. I don't think we'd had that question before in any of our digital marketing webinars, so that's a really great one. So I will get back to Rebecca's follow-up question in just a few minutes. I just want to jump forward as because maybe we'll answer some of those other questions as we move forward. So we've talked a lot about, excuse me, in the slide, some of the content and how the course works, and we keep kind of alluding towards the Capstone Project, and we'll look at that in more detail in a few minutes. But what I had asked Chris to do is kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and show you guys today participating in our webinar, what are people asking about? What are the questions that as a result of either being in an online course, what are the types of things that people are asking and inquiring about? And then on the other side, in the specific topics, in the specific sessions, what are people wondering about? What are they asking? What kinds of information are they seeking more in-depth information on? And so I wanted to share those with you guys so that you could kind of get a behind-the-scenes look as to what kinds of things students are learning and asking about. And so I always think these are great too, because oftentimes this is the first time for an online course for many people, or the first time maybe for this length of an online course over 8 weeks. And so people, were asking just advice. The other thing I think this demonstrates is the cohort and the collaboration that happens in many of our online courses, and very specifically in this digital marketing course. People were asking, how are you doing this? How are you fitting this in? What techniques are you doing to be successful here? And then there's just sometimes logistic questions. And I think these are great because you're meeting Chris today. Chris is the one answering these questions. So you're going to know that if you're saying, can I take that quiz multiple times? Chris will help you through that, and or another student will help you through that as well. And then I think this is great. And in terms of, okay, looking forward, as we've talked about the Capstone Project, well, how do I choose the right company? What's the best way for me to approach this? Is it okay if I choose my own company, a small local brand? Does it have to be a national brand? So these are things that people are asking Chris and the team and wondering about right from the get-go. Do you have any other, and maybe Chris, what are some questions that you've seen more recently as well? What are students asking and wondering about related to kind of how they do this kind of course?
Sure. A lot of the students have recently, because we recently reached the milestone of our students turning in their capstone outlines. And just for information of what that is, basically just to make sure that everybody's on the right track and everybody has a chance to have feedback on their capstone building. Eric and myself have had all the students turn in an outline, and the outline is going to be exactly what they're trying to do for their capstone, and we get into things like tactics, the channels they're going to use, and whatnot. But the question that a lot of students, are asking this past week is, do we need to use all of the channels that we learn about in this course on our capstone? And so, that is obviously a very natural question to ask because we touch on several different channels here, and with the end goal being to design a digital marketing campaign for a singular brand. The question, it just makes sense. Do we use all of these? And so, the thing that we've been telling students and other students have been telling as well is, basically, when you're taking this course and when you're listening to the live sessions and when you're going through the material, you'll be able to identify some of the things that might work for you off the bat. Obviously, if you're going to create a landing page for paid ads, or you're going to try to better your website so it can be found more online, those things obviously ring of pay-per-click and SEO. But there are going to be some aspects of this where we start getting into SMS or texting. Email marketing is something that a lot of students they come in with the idea of like, well, I think I know exactly how to do this, but then through the course you're like, well, maybe that's not the best idea. So the answer that we've been saying is that you definitely want to use multiple channels, but you don't have to necessarily use all of them, because all of them might not work for you, and all of them might not be budget friendly either, depending on what it is you're trying to do. So, but that's been a more recent question that I've seen, through a lot of students just, wondering if there's like a specific number that we are asking for. Now say that the low number is like 2 to 3. You generally want to have more than that in your capstone, because that's probably going to be the best way for you to to approach it from a successful standpoint, but you definitely don't need to have seven, necessarily, unless it makes sense for you to have seven. We'd rather you have exactly what it is you're trying to do rather than just throwing things in just to, make us,
Right.
check off the
Just
box.
make a number. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. And I see a couple questions specific to the capstone. We'll get to those in just a second. Just want to go through a few more quotes and questions that students are asking. This is where students are getting real-time feedback and input on very specific questions on different topics. And so you're seeing here a question from a student that was asking related to SEO. So my website doesn't have all the elements of H1 tags and H2 tags and headlines and various different things. And so, how do I do that? And how is it possible that HTML is differently? And so these are the types of things. And I think what we really wanted to demonstrate for you today is you can get very specific as to what is happening for you and what you're experiencing and how the instructors can help and guide you down that path. Number of characters, is that with or without spaces? You might feel like that's a kind of a silly question, but it's not, because these are things that people are really trying to understand and grapple with. And Chris and Eric, the lead instructor, and that particular Bill Rowland, who's the SEO instructor, are happy to guide you down that path and to answer these for you. And I think this is here's a few other questions that people had related to email and analytics. And so this just, I hopefully gives you a sense as to they're getting down into the weeds a little bit, and that's okay, because this indicates that students are really grappling with the information and want to learn more. And that's what Chris is here for, and Eric's here for, and the instructors. Did you want to say anything else, Chris, just related to how that information gets shared with the instructors and how the students get responses to those specific questions?
Sure, absolutely, because I think there is some ambiguity there. Generally there are two sort of open discussion boards. There's one that's actually an open discussion board that isn't specific to any one topic, and then there's actually an open capstone discussion board that is specific to the capstone. And so, anything that gets posted there, basically, I'll see it, Eric will see it, or the instructor. All of the instructors have the ability to go in and read the discussion boards and answer any questions that do come up. But generally, there's kind of two ways that kind of happen. One, either, for instance, we had a lot of SEO questions the first week, and since it's very complicated, I think Bill naturally just goes in there right after the live session and starts, poking around for questions. So if he beats me to it, then generally he'll answer a lot of the SEO questions before I can even get there. But when I get to the questions, and I see that, like, oh, hey, this is a question that would be, better answered by the instructor because it's kind of an extension of what that discussion was when we had it on Wednesday. Then, I'll tap the instructor in, and they can, kind of delve more into it, kind of like an extended live session at that point. Or answer the questions. Will sort of always encourage feedback too from the person who asked the question, as well as anybody who sees the question, because generally any question that is in the discussion board is there for the students as much as it is for the individual student, but it's for the greater students too, for them to gain that knowledge, that perspective, and just know the answers to some of these questions, like the one you saw about the headings and the analytics. Like those are valuable questions for anybody to understand, not just that one student. So there is a lot of back and forth moving parts, and best thing I say is you ask a question, and we're going to answer it, and we're going to do our best to make sure that you kind of leave that conversation just having the answer to your question.
I think it goes back to the analogy you made in the beginning in terms of your personal trainer, so, and that's true. It really is true with our subject matter experts in digital marketing, is they really do want to see you succeed and want you to have as strong of a foundation in digital marketing and in those specific channels as possible. So we're going to dive a little bit more into the Capstone Project, and we got a lot of questions about it, which I think is really fun. Is it possible for an instructor to advise or assign a student a capstone project? For example, if Maya's like, I don't know what to pick, I'm sure you get that sometimes. How do you help students make a decision as to what company they might use for the capstone project?
Sure. So that's a good question, Maya. So the way we kind of look at it is that you know, generally you're going to do best when you know, are pursuing something that you love. So if you have a brand that you love and you don't like, you just really don't have any sort of specific, you know, product in mind off the bat, you may discover just from the first couple modules that, hey, this is, you know, I think that, you know, I've always wondered about, you know, X company. Let's just say it's, you know, down here in Georgia. Let's say it's Chick-fil-A. You know, let's say you try to do something, you know, that's marketing. Yeah, it may be a little more complicated because you're going to do some research, you know, on the company itself. You know, figure out their, you know, their owned assets, like, you know, their social media page and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you have a love or desire, you know, to understand more about that particular brand, then you can easily pull something up. We'll kind of guide you the best that we can. You know, but you know, rather than arbitrarily, you know, I guess just assigning, you know, brand A to you, you know, we always like to sort of encourage, sort of like a back and forth to figure out exactly where your interests lie and whether that would make, you know, sense for you to pursue in terms of your capstone.
Mhm. That's a great point too, and I have a few slides up here that show just some examples of some of the capstone projects from former students. And I know that one of our former students, who you're seeing some of her work here, Cheryl, she loved this coffee company. It was one of her favorites. So she said, "I'm going to deep dive and investigate, you know, what they've been doing and what I would recommend that they do." Just because she was a fan of that company. And so I think it's really, back to Chris's point, is they'll guide and they'll assist, but maybe something that you choose, a brand or a product or a company that you're interested in, so that it might be more relevant for you as well. James asks, are there any group projects over the course, or is the work primarily individual based? What's the response to that?
It's individual based. We know. We know
Just
that
lost you.
everybody's in different
Froze for a
situations,
second.
and you know there are people in this course from around the world. So, oh, can you hear me? You can see me now.
Yep, we got you.
Okay.
You're back.
So James, there are people in this course. Okay. So there are people in this course from around the world. So you know, the thing with group projects would be that, you know, if it was, you know, tied to a grade, it wouldn't necessarily always be, sort of in the best interest of the students, because again, you know, like there are people on the West Coast, the East Coast, and you know, people obviously have, you know, either they have jobs, they have kids, they have, you know, different things coming, you know, coming up here and there. So we don't do group projects, but there is group collaborations in terms of, you know, the discussion boards and the talking like that. So, you know, bouncing ideas and all of that stuff is very much encouraged. But there's just nothing that's graded that is,
Right.
you know, tied to
And
a
my
group.
experience in the digital marketing short courses is that the network of people, you really grow your network as a result of some of these courses as well. There's people now that I'm connected with on LinkedIn and have used as resources. And I know Eric really encourages that also. So one of the other things that we have this slide up is thinking about the skill sets that you're going to gain as a result of this course and what you could possibly do with that. And so this is a slide. The lead instructor, Eric Harbison, and I had a webinar a few months ago that was talking about kind of the industry, and the skill sets that the digital marketing is looking for. And these are really the types of in-demand digital marketing skills that are absolutely relevant today. And so these are the things that you will also be learning. And so we're aligning the content in the course to be relevant to what is happening out there in the marketplace. And thank you. I do see lots of questions still coming in. I do want to touch base on one of questions from Paulina. What platform is used to do our work on or submit our work? Or submit the work? Is it easy to use? We use a platform called Blackboard. And we also have a webinar, if you want to stick around with us today. We have another webinar coming up at 1:30 today that is focused on how to be a successful online student. And it's with one of our instructional designers, and she walks us through Blackboard. Wonderful opportunity for you to see what that looks like, and to get comfortable with it. In addition, we do have, for any of our students as well, some instructional videos, that you can watch in advance of getting comfortable with Blackboard. You know, it's mixed reviews. Some students think it's lovely and think it works really great. Other students have a little bit of trouble navigating around. But the thing is, you're seeing and talking to the person who's going to help you. And we have tech support as well. So if you run into any challenges in the platform, Chris can help. Any of the folks can help because we, again, really do want to have you feel comfortable and succeed in the course. One more question here, logistical question. When is the registration deadline? I read that there are documents for various discounts for various affiliations. Would that apply to UVM alumni? So we're going to get to that in just a few minutes. Jamie, we're going to go through a slide with some of that specific information. And maybe Kelly could put up a link right over to that registration page with some of that information as well. So we had mentioned this amazing opportunity for our digital marketing students to take advantage free of charge. It's your time, which is incredibly valuable, but it's an opportunity for you to get one-on-one coaching in your career. You could just be wanting to, you know, maybe just brush up on your interview skills. You haven't refreshed your resume in a while. You don't necessarily have to be at the point where you're looking for another job to take advantage of this. But if you think you might at some point want to utilize the skills that you've earned and learned in the digital marketing course, this is a great opportunity for you to just freshen up all of those assets in case you want to start looking, if you want to advance your career, and what it is that you might want to do with it. So we're going to pause for a second. We're going to switch over to a video with our career coach, Sue Shlom. She's talked specifically about our digital marketing course and what the folks in that course gain and the experiences like for you working with Sue. So we're going to pause, hear this video, and we'll be back with you in just a second.
A lot of people sign up for the digital marketing course to enhance the skills that they need to be successful in their work, or potentially even facilitate job growth or a job change. So when you layer on top of the learning that you're doing in the course, the fact that I cover 5 topics, and my course is only five weeks long, and there's not a lot of homework. It's really about preparing the materials to do the one-on-one. So the first week I cover a job search strategy, and I very specifically don't start with resumes because that's not where you start when you're looking for a job. And then we talk about how to target a resume to a job, how to network and LinkedIn. And because I'm a recruiter, I show people the recruiter interface and how recruiters find candidates for jobs. So we do that. The 4th class is about interviewing and behavioral interviewing, the STAR interview method, and some of the questions that you're always going to get, like tell me about yourself. And then the 5th class is a wrap-up and a short focus on how to negotiate an offer. So once you get out there and get that job, how do you get the best offer for your work, for your time? So that's what we cover in career coaching, and we have one-on-ones with each student. So it's very personalized to their objectives and their career goals. And what's best for me is that when people get interviews and they get jobs and they move forward in their careers, and I get these amazing emails that, you know, thanking me for helping them get back out into the market.
Of insight as to what that would be like and what that experience and what kind of you'd be doing working with Sue Shlom. And I personally speak with a lot of our digital marketing students, and the feedback that they get from the experience of working with Sue has been really powerful. The woman that we showed her capstone up a little bit earlier, Cheryl, she said that through the work with Sue, she was able to land her dream job, and really an opportunity for her. She'd been in HR, and so working with Sue, she was able to move over into a different discipline and work over into digital marketing. So a couple other logistic questions. Here's the slide that shows about when it starts. Registration, you know, ideally you want to register ASAP because the course fills. And so if you are thinking about getting into this course, I would highly recommend that you register, because it's possible that you could register the day before and it might be full. And so we just want to make sure that if you are interested, I would get your name into that list to be a part of the course. We do run the course several times a year, and so if this particular session is not right for timing for you, keep an eye, and we do offer other sessions throughout the year. And there are discounts as well, and we can let more information if there's a specific question about alumni one-on-one. So please do email us if you have specific questions that you're looking for related to this course. Also, are there any other costs outside of the registration fee? Not that I'm aware of, and so I don't believe so. There's not material fees that you need to purchase. Since it's an online course, all of your materials are digital, and so that you can read and watch all of those materials throughout the session. Maya asks, what are your policies for a student missing a Wednesday session due to travel? Chris, weigh in on this, but the Wednesday sessions are recorded. Obviously, being there live is the most beneficial, but they're recorded and they're shared. Chris, any other feedback for Maya on that if somebody's on the road and can't get a live session?
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They are recorded. In terms of, whether or not, whether or not it will, hurt your grade, it won't. But generally that is a time when you can ask questions and you can, very specific questions to you or your capstone, and get, answers there, just right then and there too. So, obviously, if you can't make every Wednesday, that's okay. Just let us know beforehand, and we'll account for that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They're all recorded. Generally on Thursdays, we post the recording in Blackboard, and let everybody know, hey, it's there, it's available. Everything is saved. The chat is saved as well, so you're able to see questions that students ask and stuff like that. So. It's
Awesome.
it's basically
Great,
next
thank you. And thank you
closest
for that
thing to being
question.
there
That's a
anyway.
really great one. I don't think we'd had that before, so I really appreciate that. And Sue's asking, do you cover serving nonprofits, or is this left to individual Q&A? I love that you asked this question, because we usually do get someone asking, is this course right for me? I work in a nonprofit world. It's absolutely right. And also take that opportunity, back to your point, in the Q&As to ask more specific questions about nonprofit. I know the instructors touch on various different things related to nonprofit. It is applicable. The information is applicable across both, but if there's specific information that you're looking for related to your nonprofit, absolutely, please reach out to the instructors and Chris, and maybe there's an opportunity for the instructor to share more information if there's more people in there that might be nonprofit related as well. And Thomas asks, I know this was touched on a little bit, but I want to clarify a little more. I don't know how to work with SEO. Will this course give me the knowledge how to do this effectively, for example? And the answer is yes. And also, it really gives you a foundation. As we talked about in the beginning, you're kind of getting a cross-section of all the different channels in digital marketing. So will you feel confident in looking at your website or bringing back to your team recommendations for SEO? Yes. Will you have weeks upon weeks of hands-on intense work in SEO? Not yet, but there, a little plug for another course. There is an advanced SEO course as well. As I mentioned, the short courses, those are more bootcamp style. So this gives you an opportunity to understand SEO, gain foundational knowledge about SEO, do some work in SEO, absolutely. But if it's an area that you feel like that you want to dive more into and you really would like 4 more weeks of intensive in SEO, then that advanced SEO course is really a great option. I took that course and I probably knew enough to be dangerous in SEO, and I feel much more confident in my abilities in SEO as well. Chris, any feedback on that specifically? Because I bet that would apply to some of the other channels as well. If you're feeling like I don't really know digital display advertising, will I know enough out of this course? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, and I think foundation is probably the best word. Now with SEO, it's very complex, and you can get pretty advanced in it. So, what you learn in this course is, from something like the SEO standpoint, for instance, just as an example, like you saw that past question, we get into the foundations of SEO, the techniques. We also get into, basically how to evaluate sites, audits and stuff like that. and kind of looking to see what's wrong. And if you can understand what is, wrong with a certain web page, then you can generally, and you understand what it needs to have, then you can usually, use that as a foundation to build a better site and stuff like that. And so this is the kind of stuff that you'll get, from this course. Same with the social media on the email marketing side. There's a lot of people who come in with, a certain notion, about one thing, and then after the module, it changes their perspective, and it helps them sort of understand something a little bit more, than they did before. And if you have no knowledge of any of this, then I think this is actually the perfect. This is the perfect way to kind of start with a good way to see how all of these channels connect.
Former students really talking about sometimes they are a piece in their marketing team. And so they might not be doing the SEO, but the knowledge that they gained in this course, they feel much better prepared and have a much broader understanding of what that other team member is focused on. And so it really gives you that foundation. A couple more quick questions, and then we're going to try to wrap up today. Another question here from Sue. Oh, excuse me, not from Sue. We had one, I thought it was related to... It was Sue. There we go. Okay, I wanted to jump back over to this. Will this course give me the skills info needed to explain the benefits of digital marketing to clients? And I'm going to say absolutely. My background, actually, I own my own advertising agency, and having this course material makes you so much more knowledgeable. And again, you might not be an expert in one particular area, but you have such a broader perspective as to how they all work together and the potential benefit for that client. Plus, it's credentials. You're getting a certificate from the University of Vermont in one of the #1 ranked digital marketing programs online. And this speaks volumes, I think, also to your clients, that not only are you able to communicate the information that you've learned, but you've taken the time to expand your learning and your knowledge on those particular topics. Okay, wanted to jump back over. So we had another question. Many employees require knowledge of specific digital marketing tools. Employers, excuse me. Marketo, do you include an overview of this and similar tools in the course? That's a great question. I know a little bit more about the SEO course. And so, Chris, are different tools touched upon? I know some like SEMrush and Moz and SEO. In each session, are various different tools touched upon?
To an extent, and there's a good bit of them that are name dropped, and we do delve a little bit into a few just as examples. For instance, there's a lot of analytic platforms, but we touch on Google Analytics. In the analytics session. On email, we do touch on a variety of things too. A lot of our students bring up things like Constant Contact, MailChimp. Like you had said about on the SEO side, SEMrush and Moz and a lot of other things. So we do touch on these things. Now, in terms of having like a course or a lesson sort of around, like Marketo or HubSpot or whatever, not so much that, but in the course materials, right, there is a lot of information on relevant platforms, how to utilize these platforms. And instructors are always willing to actually, touch on these too, and like, various one-on-ones and on the discussion board as well.
Great. Hopefully that helps everybody today. Oh, good. Holly's saying thank you, and so is Sue. Thank you guys. Really great questions today. We were really trying to give you a little bit of glimpse as to what it would be like to be a student in our digital marketing course, and then added bonus module of the career coaching and what the Capstone Project looks like and what students are kind of grappling with as they prepare this. So as Kelly has put up a couple different times through there, the website link for more information, our email, as we stated, and I'll jump back just to that slide real quick here in terms of the start date. So it's beginning of March, but here comes April, hopefully soon. And so we hope to see many of you in our April start of our Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course. Chris, thank you so much. Your insight has been so valuable, and I hope everyone has found it insightful to see what's been going on. Thanks for your time today, Chris.
No problem, and very great questions. Guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. marketing course. Have a great afternoon.